Hi there, are you ready for block 3? I know I am. What I'm going to do this time, because I've gotten a little bit of feedback, I'm going to take it a little bit slower because some people have been talking to me about how they don't really know how to do with the seams and things like that. So I'm going to slow down just a little bit. And I know some of you are a little more I'm not going to say you're, perfect at sewing, but you have a little more experience. That's what I'm looking for. You're a little more experienced. And this is really a skill builder type quilt. It's beautiful. And it, by any means, if even with a more experienced quilter, it's a beautiful quilt and it's a nice, easy one to sew. But it does take a little bit of skill with seams, matching up seams, nesting seams, thicker seams, and things like that. So I'm going to go a little bit slower with the directions and things like that. But first I'm going to show you how I'm organized. I didn't get organized at first, but now I'm really, really organized. So I have used these larger clips. These are actually GE Designs, and she has these little numbers. So this is actually block 4. Everything I need for block 4, and I just grab it. And I've got block 5, and I've got block 6. Now with block 6, I do want to bring your attention to an error in the pattern. The letter of the fabric is correct, but the picture is not. It shows a blue fabric, excuse me, when it's really this pink fabric. So I want you to pay attention to that. There's actually, it's actually wrong a couple of times because it's also got, the smaller, longer pieces. I can't tell you the sizes because you need the pattern. I just want to make you aware if you're going to put your pieces together like this, or when you get to block 6, please be aware that the picture on the pattern is wrong. You can look at the first page and see the picture, but refer to the letters. The letters are correct. So that's the thing to do about 6, but all the rest of them, 7, 8, and 9 are correct. I've already got them all pieced out, and I know. And one of the things that happened when I was doing this today, I did not have enough fabric for one of them. And this is a good little thing to do to make sure you've cut all your fabrics correctly, because I did not. And so I had to cut a couple more pieces to make sure that I had the complete set for the block. So that's how I'm organizing, and I'm keeping it in a little a box, but baskets or a little bag or whatever you do. It's a nice way. So when you get ready to start your block, you're not having to fish through everything. You can just grab your packet, know your little packet, know that that's what you need, and you can get sewing and get done. All right, are y'all ready to start block 3? It's fun. We're changing. We're getting out of the pinks a little bit. We're going into some yellow. All right, let's get started. All right, good morning. Here we are ready to sew. And like I told you earlier, I'm going to be going back a few steps a little bit because I've gotten some feedback that they don't understand how I'm doing this. So we're going to kind of start from the beginning. So what I have, I'm all set up and ready. I've got my instruction page, so there's only really one page that we need. I've got my snips, I've got my stiletto, I've got my seam ripper that I hope I don't have to use. I've got my pins. It's got a little thing on top that I can break my threads when I chain piece. I've got all the pieces for block 3. I have a wool mat and an iron. So this is the mini Aliso iron that I absolutely adore. And this is the new Aliso convertible mats. You can make it any size. You can take it apart. It fits any kind of space. You just get more blocks. You can make it wider. But I've got this little IKEA stand next to my ironing table, and it fits on top of it just beautifully. So I'll be doing a little bit of pressing on here. So I've got my machine turned on, I'm sewing, got my iron, got all my little accessories. I have got a decent bobbin full for just a block, have my thread threaded on my machine, and I am good to go. Okay, so when we are doing this, and a little bit of feedback I've gotten from some people is they don't have a large space, they're sewing on their table, and so I kind of want to talk to that. I've got all my fabrics in a pile here, so we will, yeah, I probably want to get one other page. I want to see what the block looks like. So I'm going to get that page out just so I can look at the block. I forgot to get that. Block 3. This is the page where it tells you, you know, how to form your block. So I'm going to put that just to the side so I can look at the block. Our block is a yellow. I love this creamy, kind of darker yellow that we've got going on. Okay, so on our instructions, it has us putting together the top and bottom of the unit. Here, I'll fold this where you don't see the instructions. So that's the block we're making, and we are going to be making this top unit here and the bottom unit at the same time because they're done the same way. All right, let's get the pieces for that. We do not, yes, no. We do not need these pieces for this set. We need 2 of these, 1 for each top and bottom. We need 2 of these. The half square triangles, we need 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I'm going to put the others to the side. We need all 4 of the 4 patches that we put together, and we need, let me see how we are actually going to use these, and yes, these are in the next step, so I'm going to put those to the side. This is what we need. Okay, so what I like to do is kind of by my table or where you cut or anything else, you kind of lay it out. So I'm just going to lay out one unit right now. We put one of these here, and we have one of these 4 patches, and how this needs to go is these 2 colors need to match up, so you need to make sure it's like that. Then 2 half square triangles, put like that. It kind of makes a faux flying geese, and that piece goes there. Can you see me? I'm kind of lining it up. This is for the second one. Then we take another, and how these line up is in the 4 patch, this block matches the half square triangle. Okay, so then you'll put it right there, and then you'll top it, you'll finish it off like this. So that, and you need to make 2 of these basically. 1 for the top and 1 for the bottom. So you just repeat it. So what we're going to do, I like to start with this center unit. It's got the most piecing to it. So we're going to sew this center unit. We're going to do 2 of these like this and put this here. These are going to be sewn next. So what I'm going to do is sew these 2 together. I'm going to flip them right sides together, line that up, and then flip this right sides together and line that up. And I'm going to sew down both of these, and it's called chain piecing because I'm going to sew them at the same time. I've got my 1/4 inch foot in. I want to do needle down, and here we go. And then we just put it straight under there and sew the other one. And I'm bringing this over not because I'm using pins, but because I can cut the thread right on the top right there. And I like to trim just a little bit. My machine likes to do a long tail. Okay, so at this point, I am going to press these. I'm actually going to press these open to reduce the bulk right there. So I'm going to press these seams open. It'll make it lay nice and flat. All right, there's one. And there's two. These blocks, once you get going with them, they go really fast. These blocks are really pretty. Okay, so now we've got those done. Looks, again, it's like a faux flying geese. We need to put these tops on them. So what I'm going to do is line that up and go ahead and sew that. Oops, it got caught a little bit. Sometimes I have to kind of put it through a little bit. There we go. I think I have too fast of a setting going on. It got bumped. I'm going to slow down just a little bit. All right, make sure you're doing right sides together. It's a little hard to tell on this, so what you can do is just flip back and forth, and which one's the pink's a little bit brighter, that's the top. And then we're just going to line that up. If you want to pin this, if it feels more comfortable to you, then go ahead and pin it. It is a little bit longer of a seam. But I have gotten used to sewing, so I don't pin for these smaller pieces. All right, and how I decide and I'm just going to break it with a snip since I've got them in my hand, which way to press these is I look at the pieces that are next. These are the pieces that are next to it. And let's see, let's lay that out again so I can see how that goes. That goes there. And we are putting this down here. So on this side, the seam is open. So we can do kind of whatever we want. I tend to, when it's like got a thick seam here with a couple of little marks here, I tend to just let it lay flat if it doesn't matter. So with these, we're going to lay flat. We're going to iron them and press to the top of this. And I just kind of look at the blocks, and that's how I decide how to do the seam. I always want to nest the seam whenever I can. Press it on front. Okay, so now these units are done. We did one for the top and one for the bottom. Okay, so now we really don't have anything else that we need to piece other than these rows. I think these are too long. I want to measure these. Look how long that looks. I'm thinking this isn't 5.5. I've got a little thing here. No, it is over 6 inches. Let's trim this down. I'm going to trim this down real quick because I want it to sew very nicely and I don't want to struggle with it. I'm not sure why that didn't get cut to size. It's like a 1/2 inch off. Okay, and I bet the others are the same way. We'll get to those in a minute. All right, nicely here. That looks a lot better. Okay, there we go. So what I like to do is do all like things. So on these, it's really easy. These two colors are going to match up. So I'm going to put this one on here, and on this one, those colors are going to match up. So I'm going to sew it upside down, but like that. Same thing here. We can go ahead and prep it. We're going to do a lot of chain piecing. That one goes like that, and I need to turn it over and I need to cut it. Funny how that happens. So if you don't always have it cut exactly right, that's okay. That's the wonderful thing about sewing. You can always trim again. You can always get more fabric. You can change your mind. It's very forgiving that way. Okay, so no matter what you do, you are matching those colors up, right sides together. And we've got one more. Okay, here we go. Let's start sewing. And what I did just there, the bottom seam on that flipped up. Well, it was not, it was a bottom seam. Well, I don't know if you can see it like that, and it flipped over like that, and I don't want that. So I made sure underneath that that wasn't flipping in the wrong direction, causing more bulk in your quilt. Sometimes going over these little humps on my machine, it does that. Okay, so there's the second one. I slowed my machine way down. I might speed it up just a tad. Oops, that's the wrong way. Let's see what that is. Okay, one more. Yeah, that's a little bit faster. Okay, and then just cut. If you want to back stitch, you can. I don't back stitch when I piece. That's sometimes I should. It's a preference. If you like to do that, you can do that even with chain stitching. Okay. Now for this one, when I look at the block, I'm gonna fold the page so you can see it again. What we just sewed together were these two. So I definitely want to, and I'm looking at this one, if you can see it, let me get closer so you can see it. What I'm gonna iron, let me get a stiletto. I'm trying to decide how to iron this part right here on this top block. I think I want to iron towards this way because this has got a lot of bulk going on, and I'm going to press towards this direction. So these I'm going to press towards the 4 block. Try to reduce my bulk. And there is one seam, but it's not a lot. It's not a big bulk. So we'll just take a minute and press these how we want them to go, nice and flat. I tend to press in between all these steps because it makes the next step easier. Sometimes it's okay to finger press, but if you can get a little ironing set up next to where your machine is, it's a lot nicer to go ahead and press fully between each step. You can get nice crisp seams. It doesn't take a whole lot. Okay, now we've got this and this, and it's time to put that unit on, and that's all we have left to do. And then we've got the bottom one here. You could do it the same way and then turn it over. Oh, no, you can't. Well, I guess I could switch these. There we go, like that. Now we just sew these together and we're done with the top and bottom unit. Okay, so first off, these are going the same direction. That kind of sucks, but it is what it is. That's how those were done. And what I mean by that is, see, both the seams are going the same way. Sometimes you can't predict all of it. I'm going to let it go. We're going to sew that together. And if you have a hard time with flaps getting in the way, please use a stiletto. If you don't have a stiletto, at least use your seam ripper to kind of get under there and hold it down. I prefer a stiletto. It's made longer and more ergonomic for your hand, but use what you have if you rather than nothing. Okay, we're going to do the same way with this one, and this one actually nests really good. So one seam is going this direction and the other seam is going the other direction, so we get a good nest on that. And then see, my foot is coming up against where that flap may pull up. See, it likes to go there above it. This is where you use your stiletto and make sure it stays down as it goes under the foot. We don't want anyone sewing their finger. All right. Going to trim and trim. Actually, trim a little bit of that one too. All right, here we go. And I am going to press to, this one has got a real thick seam, so I'm just going to press outward from that. Whether that's a good way to do or not, I don't want that bulky seam. And we'll make sure when we're sewing it to the other piece that we check this out and press it the other way. All right. I just kind of iron next to that seam to give it a nice place to fold, or I press. Well, that part's iron, I think. And I just kind of go back over some areas. Okay. Last time we're sewing on this one. This one has a nested seam, so that one's going to come together really easily. Go ahead and sew it. I'm going to use my stiletto since that flaps up like that. And this one, it doesn't nest because it's an open seam, but that's okay. It still matches up really nicely. Make sure it's not turned. And go ahead and sew. And we've got another flap that could get turned up, so let's hold it with that stiletto. Okay. We are done with the top and bottom of this block. Simple as that. Again, I'm going to press out from that middle faux flying geese. Press, press, press. Make sure all the seams are down. Lovely. And give it a little edge right there and then press down. And taking the moment to do this, really, even if you have to get up and go to a big iron, which I usually do, I don't normally use the small one when I'm doing a lot of piecing, because I'll chain piece a lot and then go to the big iron. But it's nice when you're making the smaller blocks like this. Okay, so those are ready. Now we're ready to do the middle piece. And it takes all of these little pieces. Okay, we're going to refer to our pattern. Even if you know how to do this block, it's always good to do another check. So it breaks this up. We're going to do it just like the pattern says. We're taking 2 of these units and 2 of these, which will take all 4, right? Because we're going to do both of them. And it has us putting this on top and on bottom. So we'll start with the top. This is easy piecing. Then we can set this aside. We'll go step by step. I may have chain pieced a little too much at one time, and that's just kind of like how I like to do it. If I can set it all up, I'll get all of it done at once. but I realize some of you need to take a step back and go step by step. I wasn't extremely clear. Okay, at this point, I'm not going to press because we're really not going anywhere near it. We're only doing the other side, and we can press everything together. All right, let's put the bottom on. And the bottom on this one too. Make sure your right side's together. If you can't tell, flip back and forth. One side is going to be a little bit brighter and darker. Sometimes in certain lights it's difficult to tell on some of these lighter prints. Okay. Trim, trim. For this, I'm going to look at what I did in the past. I pressed towards the center so it's easier to nest pieces. So we're going to press to the center. I know pressing is always optional, but if you're struggling to match seams, I highly recommend you press the way I'm talking about, because I'm making it a little bit easier to match your seams up. And one of the things I don't worry about, and what's come up this past couple days for me, is every machine does a different 1/4 inch and everybody sews a different 1/4 inch. I am trying to sew it with a scant 1/4 inch, but whatever seam you start with, keep doing that. That's going to be your best bet. If your blocks aren't as big, that's fine, as long as they're consistent, okay? That's the most important thing. Okay, we're going to set these aside. We don't need these right now, so I'm going to put them way over there. Our next unit are these faux flying geese. I would have preferred to do a flying geese. I've done this 4 at a time flying geese thing, and I absolutely adore it. Now, these turn outward like this, and these would turn outward like this because it's the opposite side, right? Then we're going to put one of these here and one of these here. Now remember, you're sewing these on the point side. On the top and bottom, we sewed it on the back side right here, but we're sewing it to the point on this side. So we're going to do that, and then these are going to go on top and they're going to go on bottom. So how we're going to do this, we're going to sew these first, then we're going to attach this to this, then we'll sew to the top and the bottom. So I'm going to put this to the side, and I'm going to put these to the side. We're only concerned about these. We want to sew on the point side. So we're going to put these together like this. And we're going to sew down starting from the point. Actually, yeah, we'll sew from the point. That's fine. It's a little bit more difficult to sew from the point. I'm not going to sew from the point. I'm going to flip it over. I'm still going to sew on the point side, but it's easier to start under your needle if you start on the side that doesn't have that thicker point. And then it just does so beautifully over that thickness. Make sure it's lined up. If you start it at that thickness, sometimes it tends to bunch up the thread. Okay. Here we go. Snip, snip. And I am going to open these right up. It will create a really thick seam unless I open that up, because we're going to sew another seam right over it. So open that up. Remember, we're not sewing to the back side, but right over that point. Okay. Now what we're doing, since I want to sew to the point, doesn't matter which direction it's going right now, we're going to put this right over. And my seam got a little bit wonky there. Just going to straighten it up. There we go. Ooh, that didn't sound good. Let me check, make sure. Yeah, didn't sound good, but it's going good. That's weird. That sounded like a crunch. Okay. That's my top side. Make sure, look back and forth. It's really tough. Right sides together. Make sure you don't get that messed up. And there we go. I'll look at the bottom and make sure that's sewed correctly. You see it bunched up a little bit, but it kept sewing fine, so I think we're okay. All right, I'm going to clip that and clip that. All right, now let's see how these go. This doesn't matter because you're just going to sew another piece over this, so I'm not going to make that a bulky seam, and we're just going to lay that flat. This one doesn't matter necessarily, but this is just what I've learned with experience of sewing, that you don't want to bend that point over. You have a nicer point if you don't do that. Okay, so we're just going to press that. All right. Now what we're going to do is sew these to the top and bottom, so it doesn't matter what your direction is. You're going to do the same thing to the top and the bottom. We are almost done with the piecing of this. It really comes together fast. Okay. There's one. Remember, right sides together. And there's two. And I'm going to go ahead and trim apart. Even though I could leave it together, we're just going to trim it real quick. I'm not even going to bother to press it the other way. We're not going to get anywhere near that fabric. We're just going to grab the other piece, right sides together, and go ahead and sew that down. I'm going to make sure, yeah, we're recording. I got in my mind that we weren't recording, but we are. Okay, here we go. Putting it on the other side and sewing it down. Now we are going to look how to press these. Make sure we're going in a direction that'll help it. And for this one, it didn't cut. For this one, I am pretty sure these match up with this side like this. So beautifully, these want to press towards, up and down, and that is going to match with these, and that's why we ironed those the way we did, or pressed those the way we did. So let's just let that lay nice and flat. And the other one nice and flat. Give that a little place to go. All right, we've got one more piece to put together, and then we are done. Okay, we've got this center piece here, And I think I want it to go up like that because that flower is going up. You don't necessarily have to do that, but you know, I just want to. All right, so this goes on the top. We've definitely decided which way it's going. There are some directional fabrics in here. The stripes go all different directions, but when you can choose the direction it'll go in, you should choose for it to face the right way. Okay, again, it's my preference to do these little snips. I don't like long threads when I'm piecing. And then we're going to do the other side. Make sure, yep, we're the right direction, right sides together. Okay, and here we go. And let's see how we are pressing these. These are going towards the center. So we're going to press towards the center on this one. All the way up there. And towards the center here. All right, it's time to start piecing this together. How I would like to do it is do one side at a time because it's easy to get mixed up. I know the first time I did it, I got mixed up. So I'm going to set up this side first and make sure that, look at my picture and make sure this is going the right direction. Oops, turn that over. That's the way that goes. Okay. See, I don't like these long threads. I still leave it a little tail because I don't want it to come undone. All right, so this is one side. I'm going to put these right sides together. And we've pressed these a certain way so that they match up very, very nicely. Again, if you want to pin, I would pin at those seam areas. And we're using 1/4 of an inch. I'm using a scant 1/4 of an inch. You keep using whatever 1/4 inch you use with your machine. Okay. And I'm going to grab a top one. Again, I'm wondering how I am going to press this. So this seam is going this direction. So this seam is going to go that direction, which is good because all the bulk is in this faux flying geese. So that works for me. And we're just going to lay that flat. Again, I'm pressing after every, so that way I can see exactly how it goes. And that's looking so pretty. Okay, these seams nest as well. These seams are going up towards this, and these seams are going in towards the center. So you get a nice nest in that seam, and your seams match up really nicely. Okay. And you do have a flap up right here that could get stuck under the needle. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my stiletto and be ready for it. There we go. Just a slight guiding. Okay, we have another direction that we need to figure out how to press. So we take our upper one piece. It's going to lay like this, so that one nests. And this seam is going that direction, so we're going to press towards the center again. Towards the center. We're going to go ahead and move this over here because that's what we're sewing next. And it's the same seams on either side, so it really doesn't matter. But going that direction will help when we piece the top to the bottom because we've pressed in that direction. All right. Give it a good press here. I want to show you those seams. Now I am not perfect, okay? All right, that seam, it's really hot. That seam is really, really good. Now I'll show you one that's not so great. This one, it's hard to see in the lighting, but it is about 1/8 of an inch off, and I am not going to worry about that. It looks fine. So unless it's really, really gapey, I don't worry about it. Let me trim that off just a little bit. Okay, time to do the other side. Now, make sure you're going the right direction. Take a moment here, check your pattern. Okay, the point is going this direction. Okay, we're good. And these seams nest, so we're going to nest that right up. Make sure it's lined up and go ahead and start sewing a little bit. And then I'm going to stop right there and reposition and make sure these seams match up. I've got a flap here that may want to stick up. Come on. So I'm going to hold it down with a stiletto. There we go. All right, and we're ironing this flat. If you remember, that's the way that seam is going to go, which is natural because it's got a lot of seams on this side. So there we go. Nice and flat. Press it in the front. I am happy with those seams. Looks great. All right, now let's, obviously that's the wrong way. So you kind of get how it's going here. We're going to put these together. The seams match up so beautifully. Wow. I hope you were taking my advice on which way to press these seams. It will make it a lot easier to match up your seams. Well, your seam intersections, I should say. All right. Voila. Okay, we're pressing towards the center. And now we've got the top and bottom, and we will be done with block 3. Amazing how all this comes together. And I can't even express how much I love these slow sew-alongs. I've accomplished things that with doing it slow, step by step, I feel like I do things that I wouldn't normally do because I'm doing it slow. You know what I mean? And really taking my time. Okay, this is a good time to check your pattern. Make sure this is facing the right direction. Make sure that you're doing it and going to sew correctly. That's very important. It's very frustrating to have to take a stitch out because you sewed something the wrong direction. Ask me how I know, because I have done it many times. That's why I like these slow sew-alongs. We can take our time. All right, I am going to pin this. This is a really long with lots of intersections. Okay, so that one's not matching up, but this one is nice and nested. Trim that off. Give that a little pin right there. As a reminder, when I'm sewing, I need to look at that point. Okay, that one's not doing anything. We're matching up right there with the nest. We did really good at ironing the correct way so things nest so beautifully. Okay, we've got our final one back here. And I am only pinning at those nesting points. I don't want to over pin this, but If you want to pin on every square, please do. Do whatever you think is most comfortable to give you the best output. All right, here we go. Get my stiletto so I don't stick my finger under there. Slow down when you need to. Like this one, I want to check this one. Yep, that flap underneath had started flipping the wrong way. It felt really thick. Okay, there we go. All right, the top is on. I'm not going to press this. Where we're sewing the next one doesn't really affect that piece being pressed. I'm going to go ahead and sew to the other side. Again, make sure you are facing the right direction and the pattern, it works for the pattern. You're doing the right thing. I know it's the bottom, it's the opposite of the top, so it's not even a mirror image. You just flip it over and it's the same. Okay, let's do our pinning. We're almost done. Woohoo! Third block. Really, you could sew your first row. It's made of block 1, 2, and 3. If y'all want to go ahead and do that, I'm okay with that. I've got block 1 and 2 here. Maybe we'll do that. Maybe we'll go ahead and sew a row. I think that would be fun. Go ahead and sew one. Just 2 more sews. I think we will. Okay, here we go. I'm going to get my stiletto ready. Make sure everything looks really good under there. And that crunched up anyway. Well, not too bad. And this one is flipped. All right, this one is wanting to. All right. Okay. Our block is done. Other than some pressing, it looks amazing. Okay, let's do some pressing. What did we, I'm gonna look at one of these other blocks to see how we pressed it. We pressed it up. We pressed it towards the center. I'm okay with that. But when we're putting them together, that's going to make it more difficult because I don't want to press away from this, but when we're putting them together, that's going to make a double seam on this side. And I've probably done that with both of them. Okay. Ideally, you would probably press your seams open, but I'm just going to have a thick intersection seam on those because I really don't like to press up my, for all intents and purposes, the flying geese points. I don't like to do that. So this is my preference. You may want to iron open to make matching of the seam a little bit better and not as thick when we do the rows. But for now, look at that. So pretty. I'm going to give this a little press here on top. Really, I take it to the big ironing board and give it a little starch and good press with a big iron. But since we're going to sew the rows, I'm just going to kind of give it a lick and a promise, and then I'll press the row out all together. Okay, let's have some fun. All right, it goes up this way because we went directional on this. Okay, first block, this is the third block. So first block is this one. Second block is this one. And I've got some directional things, so I kind of like it facing up this way better. I think I did that on purpose. So we're gonna have these beautiful blocks, and they're not timed to sew together. So this is block 2. This is block 1, like this. And block 3 that we just sewed together, this beautiful, beautiful block, is block 3, and that's gonna go in the pile. And this is our first row, but we need sashing, and we haven't made our sashing just yet. Okay, so that is it for today. We've got 3 blocks done, and we only have 6 more blocks to do. And I showed you all the organization that I did. So, all right, until next week, I hope you enjoyed. Don't start doing, well, if you want to start doing your rows, do your rows, but don't make the mistake I did. All right, guys, I'll see y'all next week. Bye-bye.